Hey y'all, welcome to Scaling Compliance Automation, the third video in a series designed to get you started with the Chef Automate managed service for Azure. In this video, we'll show you how to start easily managing your entire Azure subscription using Chef Automate. For this video, you're going to need a valid Azure account and a Chef Automate instance running version 2 or later. So if you don't already have an Azure account, follow this link here to go through all those instructions and create an account. And if you don't have a Chef Automate instance, you can pop on back to the first video in this series where we actually walked through the step-by-step deployment process to get the Chef Automate managed service for Azure up and running in your Azure environment. So without further ado, let's jump into the command line interface and log into our Azure account. You'll also want to make sure to download the Azure CLI either using the MSI on a Windows machine or by using brew, update, and install Azure-CLI on a Mac machine. Then, regardless of which operating system you use, you're going to use the AZ login command and follow the prompts to authenticate to the Azure API. If you manage multiple subscriptions in Azure, make sure to run the command AZ account set -- subscription and then either your subscription name or ID to connect to the correct subscription. With that set, we'll need to register a new application or service principal in Azure Active Directory so our Chef Automate server can integrate with our Azure subscription. There are a couple of ways to do this from the Azure portal and from Azure Cloud Shell, but we're going to use the Azure CLI this time. We'll type AZADSP create for RBAC -N and then the name of your app to create the app, and then we'll make sure to grab the app ID and tenant ID from the output and save it for later. This command created our app integration with the default role of contributor, but we need to add the Microsoft Graph and Windows Azure Directory API access permissions in order to authorize our Chef Automate instance to connect. In Azure Active Directory, select App Registrations and select your new app. If you don't see yours listed, ensure that All Apps or Global Subscriptions filter is selected in the dropdown. Then select Settings and then Required Permissions, and we're on our way. We'll click Add and then highlight and select the Microsoft Graph API. After selecting the checkboxes next to Application Permissions and Delegated Permissions to get all the permissions, we'll hit Select and Done, and then do the same thing for the Windows Azure Active Directory API. Once both APIs are added, we'll hit Grant Permissions to apply the permissions we just added to our app. From here, we'll open Keys and simply type a name and select an expiration date for a new key. Azure will then automatically create a key for our integration with Chef Automate and display it here one time only, so be sure to save this somewhere as your client secret. If you lose track of that key later, forget about it. You can always come back to this section of the portal, create a new one, and then follow the rest of the steps in this video to re-register your Chef Automate Azure integration. Okay, now that we've got the necessary Azure info, we can hop over to our Chef Automate UI and configure the integration. Currently, this feature is in beta preview, which means two things. First, that support is limited on this feature, and second, that we'll need to enable it ourselves. With our browser on the Chef Automate dashboard, we'll type BETA and the Feature Flags window will open for us. We'll turn the Azure Node Manager feature flag on and then close that window. Then, in the upper right corner of the screen, we'll click the Node Integrations icon and Add Integration. On the next screen, we'll have the option to select which cloud API we want to integrate with. So if you have hybrid environments, no problem. We'll select the Azure Radio button, give our integration a name, and then enter the client ID, secret, and tenant ID that we copied earlier from Azure. If you're interested in scanning VMs for compliance against their operating system CIS benchmarks, you could leave the service type as VM and download the profiles that correspond with your operating system and regulatory needs. For now, we'll configure Chef Automate to scan our Azure subscription for common security concerns like guest user access, firewalls, and SQL and data encryption by selecting Azure API. And finally, we'll save our integration. Back in the Asset Store's Available Profiles tab, we'll make sure to download the Azure Foundations benchmark by selecting Get, and then hop over to Scan Jobs to create our job. This time, when we select Create New Job, we'll see any nodes we previously added and our Azure API integration. We'll select that, then the Azure Foundations profile we just downloaded, and then we'll name our job and save it. When it completes, we can open the report and drill into our subscription to find out more. Here in my scan, you'll notice that I'm failing Control 1.3, which checks an Azure subscription to ensure that no guest users exist. I'll go through a very fast-forwarded motion of going back to my Azure portal, deleting the outdated guest accounts, and then in Automate, re-scanning my subscription. Once that scan completes, we'll see it comes back passing Control 1.3 this time. Now let's go back into the node integration screen and quickly set Chef Automate up to identify any new, unmanaged VMs in our Azure subscription. We'll use all the same API information, but this time we'll make sure to select the VM radio dial and then save our integration. In the Scan Jobs section, we'll create a new job, selecting the new integration we just added and scheduling it to run every 5 minutes. I've chosen 5 minutes here because I want visibility into any new VMs that my teammates add, so that even if I'm not managing them with Chef Server, I'm still able to verify that they're not introducing vulnerabilities into our Azure stack. Now that my new scan is set up, I'll go back to the Azure portal and create a new server to simulate someone adding a server to my environment without my knowledge. Chef Automate will automatically rescan your Azure subscription, pick up that new VM, and then run any profiles that you've assigned to that scan job against that VM. You can then click into the report and find out how compliant that machine is with your organization's regulations, and also identify where it comes from and who to talk to about why it got added to your environment. And with that, we've integrated our Chef Automate managed service for Azure to scan our Azure subscription for various security concerns. We then configured our Chef Automate instance to auto-detect new VMs and resources in our Azure subscription, scan those resources for known issues, and then we remediated and rescanned our instance to verify that we were compliant with our business's concerns. For more on the Chef Automate managed service for Azure, check out the next video in this series where we'll combine everything together and show you how to start automating your entire Azure stack using Chef Automate. Until then, I'm Jody Wolfborn. See you next time.